Grammarly can't teach you to
Not Grammarly, no!
impression.
We want no Grammarly, no free ads for you. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Guess what?
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was Grammarly. I don't know if you heard that, Gino. But they were trying to
Yeah,
get
I
some
heard
free
it. You sounded like you
advertisements.
broke the fucking sound barrier
No,
with
we're
that
not,
one.
we're not doing no grammar, no ads until we get sponsored, Gino. Obviously, because your resident nerds is bringing in that money.
We are bringing in that money.
That's right.
And if by money you mean TikTok likes.
Woo! We're not yet. But hey, we actually our TikTok is doing well, and for those of you that are interested, follow us at Your Resident Nerds at TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube
And Twitter. We have a Twitter as well that's barely active, but that's okay. We're working on it.
We're getting there.
We're gonna get there.
Funny enough, we're actually live right now. For those of you that don't know, we're live streaming the podcast now, just so hopefully to get you guys more involved, so you guys can give us some of your feedback. Because me and Gino, while we're nerds in our respective categories, we don't know everything in our categories. True. That's for sure. By any
Definitely
means, so if there's anything you guys can give an input on, or maybe something you guys want to know, just feel free to let us know on any of our social media or here live on twitch.com at twitch.tv/Nikita Lisko.
I also get really bored just talking to only Nikita, so like when we get some other people like coming into the conversation, it gets pretty lit. That's all I'm saying.
Gino?
It's fine. It's all right. I had that. We literally last time we talked, I think I was just kind of on my Star Wars Visions kick.
That's true.
I can't speak. I just sucked off the show the whole time. I was like, it looks so good.
I know. Yeah, and I was gonna say, actually, when we're live, we talk about a bunch of different topics. Like we did a live reaction to the Eternals trailer, a live reaction to, or did, not Gino, but we did a live reaction to the Star Wars Visions trailer, which hopefully we'll have up on YouTube this week, or around the same time, maybe a little after this episode comes out for you guys. But it's just a good way to keep up with us, get like direct updates from us live as we're going through things. TikTok is also a great way just to see what we think about current events, like the Tim Drake being bi type thing. But Gino, introduce yourself. Who the fuck are you?
Oh, my name is Gino. In case you missed me from last stream, I am your resident weeb of the Your Resident Nerds podcast, which me and Nikita co-host. And today I'm actually on the stream to talk about an anime, which is what I do. It's what I specialize in. So
yeah,
nice
which
to
is
meet
why
you guys.
he's leading this podcast episode today for Your Resident Nerds, because my name is Nikita and I am a comic book nerd. I do watch some anime, but good lord, do I not know as much as Gino. That's a fact.
I don't even know if I know that much. I'll be honest.
That's false. You definitely do. Says the guy who watched what was it boyfriend or girlfriend?
I did watch girlfriend the other day. I watched the first episode just to set my tone.
Casual anime fan is watching girlfriend just for the fucks of it.
So don't you know that Naruto and girlfriend go like hand in hand? It's basically the same property. They work together. I think One Piece. My Bride is a Mermaid. Same thing, same diff.
So Gino, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about actually a very popular, some people have romantic feelings towards this show. I'd be very careful when speculating with that. Some people have got a deep love for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Which I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about how you can get into it. If you even want to get into it, we're going to get some reactions from some people I talked to on the internet, which is where you can find the best people. And I think we'll be giving a short synopsis of each of the parts because you can kind of talk about them. We'll be talking about why people are a little bit worried about JoJo, why people don't feel like they can really step into it. And I think that's our mainstay topic for today so far. Gotcha. Is there anything you want? What's your experience with JoJo? Let's start with there.
Well, I've watched the first two parts. So JoJo's weird because it's in like they do it by parts, not even just by like seasons or things like that. And there are 5 parts out. They just announced the 6th very recently. And I've only seen fully the first 2 parts and then sporadically throughout like part 3 and part 5 together. And the first 2 parts I really enjoyed. I did enjoy the first part a lot with Joseph Joestar and his like not to, I guess, spoil anything, but I mean, we're here to talk about the show. Joseph and his like whole qualm with Dio, but him just like being a caring person and just always seeing Dio as his brother regardless.
Are you talking about you're talking about Jonathan here?
Wait, is Jonathan the first Joseph?
Jonathan.
My apologies, Jonathan.
It's okay.
But like just seeing how like kind-hearted Jonathan was really cool. Like, just him as a character was very unique. And then
you would like the Boy Scout character, wouldn't you? The worst of the JoJo's.
Peter Parker. Okay. Shut the fuck up. All right, he started the whole thing. But then Joseph is also one of my favorite characters because he's
Oh.
just such a badass. He's just so clean, smooth with everything he does.
Best
like
boy.
his fighting style is so interesting. Like it just you want to watch him in any scenario, any like given situation. So I did really enjoy them. I think my only drawback was there was a reason why I didn't want to why I didn't avidly like continue watching it. And maybe it's because of the whole part thing where they rotate characters and each character is like a little different. But also part 3 does include Jonathan from part 2, which is really cool, like as an older character, which
Jonathan's
I love.
done. He's done so.
Yeah,
he's gone.
Now he's gone.
That is
past
kind of
part
a
3.
spoiler, I guess. But I mean, if we're gonna talk about it later, I mean, it's not really a spoiler to say that every part literally stars a brand new protagonist, which I think is part of the uniqueness, definitely, of the anime. But we're gonna go into that later. The main reason we're kind of talking about JoJo's today is I brought it up to Nikita because Stone Ocean, which is part 6 of the JoJo series, comes out December something. It comes out in December. It's going to be part of the winter anime selection, and so that's kind of trending right now. All the JoJo Stars fans are fucking adamant excited about it. I personally just finished watching JoJo's for the first time ever about 2 weeks ago. I started I think about a year ago now. It was a while ago that I started part 1, and we just kind of watched it sporadically throughout a while. But that being said, we finished part 5 about 2 weeks ago, I believe, and so it was like it's fresh on my mind. I just saw it. I'm not like a hardcore like JoJo fan. I'll be straight up about that. But I do think there's something valuable in watching it, and I do think there's something valuable that everyone can pull from it necessarily. And Iraqi, who's the original creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, has a wonderful imagination. I think he's got a wonderful mind. He certainly has created something special. I think that's an understatement.
Well, so why would you say it's special? Like what? Because to me, like the thing that pops out the most is one, the animation, and then the characters. Is that why you think it's so special, or like does it have to do with the plot, the story?
No, it's not the plot. It's definitely not the plot. I will say I think JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is probably the most unique anime that you will find. In terms of style, in terms of characters, in terms of like aesthetic, it's just different. Like it fits like the anime aesthetic, right? Like it's got like similar art styles, but like even within it, it's like its own subgenre. You can immediately tell a JoJo's character if you're familiar with it. We were watching My Bride is a Mermaid, which is a romantic comedy show, and so they keep throwing in like JoJo's references into it, and like the art style that they use, like it's just immediate. You immediately grasp and you know who they're talking about.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, are you aware with Fist of the North Star? Have you ever heard of that before?
I feel like it sounds familiar.
It's an old 80s 90s anime about this guy traveling around the wasteland and killing people, but it's got a very like particular like masculine like big buff guy type of like drawing style essentially. And so Rocky took like huge inspiration, and so Jonathan, right, you're familiar with Jonathan, is like literally like based off of Kenjiro. I don't remember his name because I haven't seen the show, but it's based off the main character of that show. So like everyone's supposed to be these buff masculine dudes, which is why there's not a lot of women in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. That's probably one con that you could definitely find with the show. It needs a little bit more diversification in terms of men versus women. But like I said, we'll get down to that later. I think in brass tacks. What was I going to hit next?
Yeah, I'm curious because
what do you got for me? What are you curious about? Let's talk about like why I think people struggle to get into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. First of all, there's the fandom problem. Now, the fandom is like a double-sided coin, because on one hand, I find them to be like, I've been trolling around the Reddit forums recently, and like I've known JoJo fans for a while. My good pen pal from Switzerland, who I've known for 3 or 4 years now, I had a conversation one time when I was early on and like talking with him and starting to meet him, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm really big into anime, like Cowboy Bebop is probably my favorite show of all time. And this motherfucker goes, oh, there's no point in watching anime unless you're watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Like there's nothing better than that. And I remember at the time being like, ooh,
bad take.
bad
take. If you say that about any anime, not even just JoJo.
And so they're wholesome. I find them to be really accepting. I find them to be really cool for the most part. But on the other hand, people who are fans of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure tend to be a little overbearing. I've seen some people online describe them as even obnoxious. I don't want to be rude and go that far. I don't think they're that bad. I don't think I've ever met somebody.
I think they're fucking assholes, Gino.
Okay, well, just
come out and say it. Put your dick on the table, all right?
I there are toxic fandoms. The My Hero Academia fandom, for example, people in that one tend to be fucking crazy. I don't fucks with them. The JoJo's fandoms, like, they're wholesome, they're nice, they want people to get into JoJo's, and they do it in like a cool way, at least, where they're just accepting of people. But like the amount of motherfuckers I have to hear who say that is the best like show, or like make, there's a reason there's a meme called like, is this a JoJo reference, right? It's because people have like unironically said that before, right? Like they'll be like, oh, is this a JoJo's reference to everything? And you just want to strangle yourself. You know what I'm getting at? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I wish I could read off the copy pasta that Aiden always posts. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah, the JoJo one he puts on the Discord. That's funny.
Correct. Yes. The holy fucking shit. Is that a motherfucking JoJo reference? JoJo is the best fucking anime. And meanwhile, I'm saying all this. There are like a bajillion emojis in it because again, it's a copy pasta. Josuke is badass. Yo Angelo, yo Angelo, like shit like that. And like
I just love waking up every morning to the Discord just reading that entire copy pasta.
And the spam. Brady cracked me up so much the other day. Brady's a good friend of ours from the Discord. And he was like, yeah, it was funny when you posted it the first time. Oh wow, funny when you posted it the second time too. And like Brady's dry sense of humor, just love my boy. Yeah, like, so if you're just getting into anime, right, or you've been in anime in a while, and like we've got hardcore fans out there, we know that there's motherfuckers who love Naruto, love One Piece, love Dragon Ball Z. Do you have any other big fandoms in mind that I'm missing out? Those are some pretty.
Those are the main ones. I mean, yeah. Bleach has a pretty big fandom.
Bleach has a great fandom, yeah. And like, you know, you think of those guys, and then you have a motherfucker like coming up to them being like, JoJo's is the best anime ever. There's nothing compares. And it's like, not everyone's like that. There are definitely a sizable amount of JoJo fans who are quite like that, though.
Why do you think it doesn't compare? Just because like the plot's meh?
Why do I think it doesn't compare? Like, why do I think JoJo's doesn't compare?
Because I don't think JoJo's is one of the greatest anime. I think it's up there for one of the big animes, but I think when you compare it to things like Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach, I don't really think it touches those, because those have been going on for, and I guess so is JoJo. I mean, JoJo's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why I said I want to do an episode on like the actual like history of like Araki like coming up with JoJo, because like it comes back from like the 80s, I believe. The late 80s is when the first thing was published,
and then they basically
first manga
did the whole thing, the entire series.
Like that's crazy. That's a long-standing like series. The dude is almost, I think, like in his 70s now at this point. Araki is like hella old, because everyone talks about like, oh, how many parts are there going to be, and like there can only be so many parts. Like the guy's getting up there in age, like you know, he's kind of running out of time here. He's planning on making like X amount
a finale of some. How do you do a finale for this too?
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I've heard like hints and glances of like the parts that come after, because part 6 is the next one, but up in the manga I believe they're up to part 8.
Yeah,
don't quote me on that.
And they're not even doing like, I guess to explain though, for people that haven't seen JoJo, because maybe you're a little lost, because I think that's something we should explain, is what JoJo is JoJo. Each part is like part 1 was the very first generation of the Joestar line. Part 2 follows the next generation, which doesn't necessarily have to be his or his son. It was actually Jonathan. Or was it Jonathan's?
No, he had a son, George. He had a son, George, before that.
Who then had a son. So it's his grandson is the main character of part 2. For him, it's his illegitimate son in part 3. For like part 4, it's then, I think it's still Jonathan's like great nephew or something like that.
We'll get into it later. I have the summaries that for each part.
But basically, each part is a new generation of the Joestars, Joestar family. And so now we're up to part 8, I think, and they don't follow the family per anymore. If I'm pretty sure, like part 7.
I don't know. I don't know what happens after part 6. I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I only know parts, but the others who I know have been trying to keep me in the dark about like what happens post that. So you'll have to go and read the manga if you're truly interested in finding out what happens after part 6. But yeah, that's the best I got.
I may have done a wiki read, which is why I was wondering. But I'm sorry. I know it's terrible. I shouldn't, but I do a wiki read sometimes. A series I love just. I think
what you're pointing out here, like the whole like the idea of like having new protagonists for like every season or like every part, whichever you want to call it. Like, I think that shows like the kind of weirdness, the bizarre nature that JoJo's has. I'm gonna hate myself the amount of times I'm gonna be like, it's bizarre. It's just truly bizarre.
That's in the title, Gino.
But
bizarre adventure.
yeah, like I can see people like from an outside, like just kind of like if you're looking at just like images of JoJo's for the first time, like if you're even looking at like costumes, for
Wait,
example, right? You
also,
would
sorry, not to interrupt you, but I have
yeah,
some
yeah,
images that you sent me if you want
yeah,
me to show them
sure,
to
please.
chat. But like, just for example, Joseph or Jonathan Joestar, the very first
Yeah,
Joestar. Oh wait, let
yeah.
me make.
I think
sure.
I sent you one of each of them. I sent a
Yeah.
little bit more than that too. But
I mean, just
yeah.
oh, you're on top of him, Gino. Good lord, I blame
Sorry,
you.
fam.
No,
It's
it's
me.
okay. But yeah, this is Joseph or Jonathan. He's the very
Jonathan.
first.
If he's
Yeah.
the first one, it's probably Jonathan.
Yeah, this is Jonathan.
I have to check what you're putting on.
Yeah, you don't have the stream open, you bastard.
There, yes, that is Jonathan.
That's Jonathan. Very muscular, huge abs, bulky
The
arms,
boy.
shoulder pads, which I don't know were in fashion during his day.
Oh, in the 1880s. Yeah, probably not. I'll be real honest.
He did play
with
football though, I think, didn't he? Am I wrong?
I think he played
the very
rugby.
first, or yeah, rugby. Yep.
Correctly.
There we go. Yeah,
he was English.
That's Jonathan, but that gives you an idea of like the characters. I have the others.
And it gets wild. I mean, show him Giorno. If you look at the right of the screen from the background, then
yeah, that's the very first
Giorno. You know.
And then this is Giorno. There we go. Oh, he's a lot tinier, Giorno. He actually is a lot tinier character-wise as well.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Oh, yeah, there you go. It's got to get bigger. Okay, cool. Yeah, so like if you're seeing that for the first time, you really don't have any like modicum of idea of what JoJo is. I'm sorry, man.
That's it's really fucking weird.
It's a little weird. So like, and I'm not hating on it because I like Araki style. I think it's cool. It's innovative. It's definitely new. It's like he's like playing with fashion in a way that a lot of other like people who make anime don't necessarily do. And I respect him for that. I think it's really neat. It's just kind of, it's just odd. And so like if I'm already kind of like a noob when it comes to anime, or I'm already kind of set in my ways in regards to anime, you know, I like badass like shonen characters. Like I like Naruto style, and like Bleach has got like a nice aesthetic to it. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure just doesn't have like anything related to that. You know, it doesn't.
I do think they have some badass characters like Jonathan.
They do. No, and that's the worst part is like it's like if you watch the actual show, I mean, like I'd say each of the JoJos is pretty badass.
Yeah.
In their own rights, respective ways, whatever you want to call it, they're all cool. It's just more of like the idea that if you don't have any experience with JoJos, if you're not doing the slow roll into it, you're just confused. And when you're confused, you're like, man, I'm really not into this. I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
That's my take. But you know, there's a couple of different ways that people might be weirded out. There's the costumes. If you see accidentally videos of it online, there's something called like the torturers dance, which is funny, but like again, if you've never experienced before, you're just gonna be weirded out. That's my take. I think that's what happened to me, at least. I was annoyed with the fandom, and then I kept trying to look at it, and I was like, dude, like it just looks odd as hell. I was like, sorry, fam, like that's just the reality of the situation. But maybe that's up to personal preference. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or not.
I always thought the anime style was a little weird because the characters are drawn blocky, like they're.
Oh, okay. I sorry, I forgot to mention that as well. So Rocky for each part, each season, literally changes up his art style. Sometimes it's in more subtle ways, sometimes it's more in main ways, but like you can tell literally because there are characters that travel over, right? Jotaro is the main one. That there's 3 different like distinct drawing differences in Jotaro,
actually, I can
part 3 and part 6.
Here, like this. I think I have it right here. Yep. Yeah. Oh my God. Hold up. Yeah. Let me show you guys that. That's how he's drawn. In the left, in part 3.
Yeah.
Blocky, square-like.
Part 4, I believe, is the right
one in the white. Yeah. Which looks a lot smoother, cleaner. And then what is this? Part 5?
I think that's part 6. Part 5, I think he wears the white suit. You don't really see Jotaro in part 5 as much. He shows up in the first episode, and that's kind of it.
But like in part 6, he looks bubbly almost, if that makes sense. Everything just looks more like inflamed.
I think it's his like chin isn't as chiseled. His nose like rounded out.
Yeah, it's round. There we go, round, just round. And so it's a weird. You can even see it with Jonathan here, with from part 2 to part 1, or part 2 to part 3. I mean here.
Oh, Joseph, yeah.
Or Joseph. Fuck, I always. I don't
it's okay. I know. That's what. So the meme that we have in our inner friend group is I call Joseph Jeremy Joestar.
You see it on the right. On the right, he's like blocky, square. Like on the left, it's a little more smooth, sharper. I feel like is at what part 2 kind of went for. Yeah, I didn't realize that each part actually had their own unique art style. Now that I think about it, that's actually
they definitely do. They definitely do. And again, I have a high respect for Rocky that like he like has this like sense of wanting to innovate. Rocky to me is this type of guy who's like he's on the grind mindset, except instead of like success, his version of success is not like money and power. It's like how bizarre and like weird can you get, and like he has this like idea of like cool is the most like spontaneous wacky thing that I can set up in a situation, right?
Yeah.
For instance, you have a character in part 5 who I think is a perfect example of this. That he is stand, which we're going to explain the power set here after I explain this. But his stand is a gun, and the whole joke throughout the entire series basically is that this motherfucker shoots himself. I think like over 30 times, Nikita. Despite having like a gun that can like literally can direct the bullets to make him go wherever he wants them to. This dude ends up shooting himself like 30 times or something like that. Not in one episode, but like throughout the
sounds
fucking
pretty
season.
Useless. I'm not gonna lie.
I personally not a big fan of him. I know the boys that I watched it with were quite a big fan of him, but yeah, his stand was really funny. Mista.
So what are stands and what are, because before stands are Haman.
Okay, so exactly. Another weird thing that JoJo's does is it switches over like the power move set essentially between season 1 and 2, and then the rest of it. So season 1 and 2,
because I feel like not to interrupt you, but season 2 and 3 are their biggest seasons, but then they're the most different.
Okay, so can I go over like the storyline, because it'll involve the evolution of Herman to stands. We can do that. I think. So part 1 basically. Part 1 from you have to keep this in mind. When I watched part 1, I didn't actually watch the technically full season. I watched the abridged version, and I watched it drunk off my ass. Because my friends told me I should drink for it, and they were like, "You're probably not going to enjoy it that much, so just drink. We'll watch the abridged version." We got through it. It's about Jonathan, whose dad is saved by some decrepit old man, I believe, who has a son, Dio. The guy is dying, the old man is dying, and so because he saves this rich man's life, he sends Dio to go live with this rich man. The rich man is the father of Jonathan. Jonathan and Dio grow up together. Dio eventually becomes a vampire.
Wait, also Dio's a dick the entire time. Dio's terrible. Like maliciously trying to like
worst.
Bomb
the first
Jonathan's
time you meet him, he kicks the shit out of a dog.
Yeah. And Jonathan is like trying to explain this to his father the entire time, and his father's like, "No, son, don't be jealous.
Come on, Jonathan, stop being stupid." Rocky hates dogs, by the way. That's a fun fact about the show. Anytime you see a dog, there's a very high likelihood they're going to get destroyed and maimed in some way.
It's so messed up.
And I want to say I'm gonna speak for him here and hope that this is his reasoning, is that people like you, Nikita, you like dogs, correct?
Yeah.
And so when you see a dog hurt in some way, you go, "That's a bastard. That's a bad person." So that's my guess of why he does that, is he's setting up like it's an evil thing to hurt a dog. He could just hate dogs. I don't know, man. I'll be honest with you.
Felix, don't listen to this.
The one, he makes a main character dog later down the line. I'm not going to say when, but he makes a dog like the main character, and it's the most annoying character you could create.
He's purposely trying to make you hate dogs too.
Yes, fucking Iggy,
what an amazing
bro.
writer.
I just wanted to strangle. Oh.
All right, so it starts with Jonathan and Dio.
So Jonathan, Dio becomes a vampire. Jonathan has to learn this breathing technique. It did it before Demon Slayer, I suppose, where he essentially channels life energy and has the power of the sun or something like that. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain Hormone. Yeah. Basically, it allows you to kill vampires, because vampires are weak to the sun. They're also super strong. There's this big fight between Dio and Jonathan at the end. And yeah.
I mean, Hormone sounds cool, though.
It does. I like the idea of Hormone, and he kind of drops it. He only brings it back really, I think, twice post part 2.
Yeah.
It doesn't really come back as much because he replaces it with his next power set, but we'll get to that when we get to part 3. Part 2 follows Jonathan's grandson. Years later, it's like literally right before World War II is when it starts. Jeremy, or Joseph as his real name is.
Yes, let's go by his real name. I guess
he's
Jeremy, but
he's a delinquent. He's a really funny guy though. He's cool. He lives in New York, so we're moving from England to New York now. Yeah, I remember because I struggled with part one so much, and I remember we got to part two, and it was the first episode, and I wasn't drinking for this one. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna watch this normal. I'm just gonna dive into it.
Yeah.
And the first episode just annoyed me, and I was like, oh my god. And it wasn't until the last, I think, 5 minutes that this vampire approaches Joseph, and he's like, oh, like I'm gonna I'm gonna stop you before your full potential can be reached. And Joseph's like, oh yeah, and pulls out a Tommy gun from his back pocket, which I don't know where he was hiding it from. Pulls out a Tommy gun and just blows this guy away into a store. And I was like, that was badass. I was like, let's fucking go. It was like, that was cool as hell. And immediately I snapped onto part two, and it became, I believe it's my second favorite part. I loved part two so fucking much. The only one problematic thing it has is it kind of has a weird thing with a certain political group from Germany, which, if you know anything about World War II history, should be pretty evident as to what I'm talking about. I don't want to get TOS by saying who they are.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, actually, don't say them. I was about to say it, but yeah, no.
So yeah, so just keep in mind when you watch that, a little weird. Don't know why Rocky included it the way he did. Okay.
Yeah.
Really great part though.
What's the conflict there? What is
the conflict that arrives there is that this political group revives these three ancient Aztec vampires who want to destroy the world essentially, and Joseph has to stop them. Because he also has Harmon.
Didn't that introduce Speedwagon? Because Speedwagon was from part one as well.
I think Speedwagon was from part one, and he had the Speedwagon Foundation took a pretty big part in part two.
Yeah.
In regards to like why they had so much money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or they had like assistants. It also had Caesar, Rip My Boy, my blonde-haired Italian king, with the bubbles. So fucking weird. It's such a fucking weird. Yeah, it's just that's an example of like a weird power set that Araki gives someone. We're gonna go into weirder ones with Sans, but like his main power is like bubbles, and the bubbles pop and like sunlight comes out of them. Like
that's it. Very vampire based. And I could tell he was like, actually, vampires fucking boring now. Let's move on.
Well, not entirely. Well, kind of, not entirely. Yeah, I was about to say, because part 3 rolls around, right? In part 3, we're in Japan now, and Joseph had a kid, and the kid married a Japanese man, and the Japanese man had Jotaro.
Oh yeah, so it's his illegitimate grandson.
Yeah, Jotaro is the most badass character out of all the JoJo's we get. Problem is that he's also he's one of the most boring, I would say. He's got charm because he's badass, but I swear to you, in part 3, he says like a combination of maybe like 30 words, maybe the whole time. I don't know. He doesn't really talk that much. He kind of gets sidelined by all the side characters. That's a problem I have with the Rocky in regards to like, sometimes he offshoots a little bit too much. He makes the side characters like a little bit too important, and I'm like, I'm here for the JoJo's, man. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Part 2 doesn't do that. He's really successful, and like Joseph is the king. Like Joseph's a homie.
Yeah.
Part 4, I also think he does like a really good job in like balancing everybody, so like everyone's really important. But part 3, dude, like oh my god, Jotaro doesn't really become like pertinent, I feel like, until the end. And so basically part 3 essentially is Jotaro is a delinquent. He finds out one day that he's been quote unquote possessed, and that there's this big purple man following around him. I think one of the pictures I sent you is
yeah.
Let me show that off. So they introduced the next power set, which is essentially stands, which are brought about in the world to people who have who are resonant of their self. And so stands are like these like big things that stand behind you. In some cases, they exist in a lot of different forms and formations. But they're supposed to be like reflections of yourself. So, for instance, Jotaro's is this big purple guy who punches things really hard. And you'll be putting a picture.
Yeah, that's Jotaro right there. I'll grab a picture, but you keep going on about.
Yeah, he has a buddy, Polnareff, who has like a knight that stabs things. He has another buddy, Abdul, who can make like a Moltres like bird that shoots fire everywhere. Joseph, who actually returns in part 3, he awakens his own stand because of, it's called Purple Hermit. It's like a purple vine that's super weak, but it allows him to see things in the future, gain like insights of knowledge around the world, like spirit photography and stuff like that.
I hate that tweet though.
I know. That's why I said they like shafted him, and then he doesn't use Harmon to fight, even though they're fighting who? They're fighting who, Nikita? They're fighting another vampire. Oh my god, Dio didn't die in part
Harmon, 1. And Dio died in part 1 from Harmon. Well, died, quote unquote, but yeah.
Yeah, but he's back in part 3, baby. He's the main villain.
How did he come back?
He took Jonathan's body and started corrupting it.
Yep.
Yes, and then I don't remember their explanation for it, but because he took Jonathan's body, everyone's stands started appearing for some reason.
Which is weird. And these are the stands I have pictured right here. Just basically like
they're aspects of yourself. That's a good way of saying it. They're like avatars. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, exactly. Avatars.
And part 3 is just them trying to hit. So Jotaro and the gang, so his grandfather Joseph and their associates, it's a small group of them, are trying to get to Egypt to stop and kill Dio. That's it. That's literally the whole anime, or the whole part, I suppose. There's nothing else really big happens there. Part 3 has some problems, but like I said, we're gonna get those when we get to my personal thoughts. Part 4, we're in Japan again, following Josuke, who's another school delinquent who turns out to be the what's the word? How do you say this?
What?
Well, when you're the child who's not, you're like a bastard. What's the nice way of putting that?
I think it's just bastard. I don't think there's a nice way of putting illegitimate.
Illegitimate child. There we go. Yeah, he is the illegitimate child of Joseph, who cheated on his wife back before the events of part 3.
God damn it.
And so and so we have Josuke, who is Jotaro's uncle, interestingly enough. Even though Jotaro is way older than him. It's fine.
So why didn't they just do that with Jotaro and then do...
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know, Nikita. It's fine. Iraqi's got his own
this
stuff.
Is the best anime ever.
I know. It's bizarre, It's bizarre. That's what it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Basically, the way you could summarize that one is it's a gang of high school kids. And when I say gang, I mean that colloquially. Like they're just good kids. They're just normal people. Who are trying to find a serial killer who is targeting their town, and also deal with the appearance of a bunch of different stands. There's something called the Requiem Arrow that appears, and people are pierced by it. They end up developing stands themselves, and so that causes like a bunch of havoc in the town. And so Josuke and all his friends are trying to deal with that. But Josuke's stand is a lot different than Jotaro's. It can punch hard, but it also has the special ability that it can reconstruct anything essentially. So if it breaks a brick, or if it finds a broken brick, it can reattach it or bring it back together.
That sounds very fucking broken.
Oh, it's super OP. That's the one thing that's true about all of the JoJo's. They're all OP, except for Joseph and Jonathan, I suppose.
Because
hormone users. But when you watch part 3, you'll be like, oh, Jotaro.
Well, wait, couldn't you say, because Dio has a stand, right?
Dio does have a stand.
Would his stand technically be what Jonathan or Joseph's stand would have been, since he took over Joseph's body?
Jonathan's stand, you mean?
Or Jonathan.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah, it could have been. I don't know, dude. I don't know enough about the theories of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to say whether or not that's true.
Fan? I mean, God.
I mean, I enjoyed it. Listen, I had a good time watching it. I wouldn't be here saying that everyone should watch it at least once if that weren't the case, That's a good theory, though. There's a lot of people who theorize that Dio's stand and Jotaro's stand might actually be the same. So I'm not going to explain why that might be, but keep that in mind if you ever watch it, as to where the connections could be drawn there.
Yeah. So that's Josuke.
Yeah, so that's Josuke. Josuke's searching for the serial killer, and then last we have Giorno, who I'm not going to spoil how he's related to the line. Just know that he's Italian.
I think it's pretty. I feel like if you look at him.
Do you know? Do you understand? Do you know the truth? Oh, okay.
Well, I think I do.
I'm not gonna say it. Grr.
Can I say it?
Watch the show. What do you think it is? What do you think? How do you think he's related to the
well, I'm pretty sure it's because Dio slept with someone in Jonathan's body, and so he's technically a Like,
that's
hey,
my genius, Nikita, my genius.
Because he looks like Dio, and
he does. Yeah, he's Dio's kid. That is. But because it's Jonathan's body, he's technically a Joestar.
Is he evil like Dio?
No. Well, define evil. He's in the mafia.
Well, does he use it for good or evil?
Well, his whole goal is he wants to take over the mafia so that he can stop the drug trade.
Oh, that's good.
Which I don't know how becoming the leader of the mafia is gonna like succeed in that route. Like,
yeah,
you're still in the mafia, you're still doing bad things. Like that's not it. Anyways, yeah, part 5 is the mafia part where Giorno is essentially trying to become the head of the mafia. The head of the mafia is his main bad guy, and that's really it. That's kind of that one. In part 6, I can give you what I know about it already. I don't know who the bad guy for part 6 is, but I know the setting and the start is that Jolene, who is Jotaro's kid, so part 3 Jotaro had a kid. Mm-hmm. It's his daughter, the first girl JoJo, is put in prison because she was framed, and then she starts a prison gang. That's all I know.
Interesting.
So it's in Florida, I believe, but she's
back in America.
Back in America, yeah. So if you couldn't tell, we went from England, America, Japan, Italy, and now America again. I believe part 7 is also in America.
Yeah, it is. Correctly. Yeah. That's where it gets weird. I won't spoil it, but yeah, it gets really weird.
I've heard it does get pretty odd. Nobody spoiled it for me yet so far, so I've been lucky in regards to that. Yes.
So I will say, Junos, we are at 40 minutes.
We are at 40 minutes.
Do we want to go over some of the Reddits?
Sure. Do you want to read some of them off, or do you want me to do that?
I can. I'll find the image and we can read it off. Let's see. Oh goodness, if this works. So this is what some people had to say about the show. If I can pull it up. Jesus God, this image got enlarged by a lot. I mean, I guess while I'm trying to get this to work, what did most of them say? Were they all positive? Were there?
From the ones I pulled. So I went to r/anime and I went to r/Stardust Crusaders. So the first one is just a general anime subreddit, and then Stardust Crusaders is a reference to part 3, and that's the main JoJo subreddit that you can find.
All right, I found it. It says
I think there was only one negative one that I found really.
Okay. Well, yeah, this one seems to be a positive one. It says, for starters, the Araki Senpai drawing style itself is beautiful. It emphasizes a ride of color, glamour, and killfulness in literally everything, which I would agree. The poses, hairstyle, mannerisms, looks of the characters. Araki has filled his story with references to the fashion industry and pop culture. He also had a passion for Italian culture, especially the sculptures of Michelangelo, from which he took the poses for the characters. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, next, I forgot about the poses. Yeah, the poses are also pretty big in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. There's a lot of TikTok trends about that.
Next, there's the structure of the story. It's structured in such a way that it can be written endlessly, and each part conveys the actual spirit of the time. The characters change and evolve to suit the temporal needs of the audience, and it creates such an effect that everyone can find in JoJo. Something interesting for themselves. Interesting.
I don't know about that one. That seems a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Okay. I will follow up on their first comment that I have seen some manga panels before, and I didn't pull up any from Nikita because I was mostly talking about the anime in today's episode. But the manga is really beautiful. The colored imagery for the manga, I think, is almost a lot better than the show.
Damn.
If you were looking for like the more artistic side of it, he does a really good job in the manga.
I think I found a negative one.
Sure.
I really dislike the aesthetics. The characters all look weird and angular and plasticky, and the color work is just gaudy and unappealing. The humor is juvenile and annoying, and most of the characters are either bland or outright unlikable. Dio is fun, though. The brand that makes JoJo recognizable just isn't entertaining, funny, or appealing to me, so I usually find it boring at best and frustrating at worst. I will say, though, that my friends are huge fans of the series will fight you on the notion that it doesn't have a good story. They go on and on about how interesting its themes are and the thought and detail put into the plot. Is that true, Gino? I mean,
I don't mind the plot up until you talk about pacing. I think pacing is like the worst thing that Araki has going for him in terms of JoJo. Stuff stretches on way too fucking long, and he puts like cool characters in the wrong spots. There's like his emphases are like wrong. Part 5 has this really cool character I loved that he only gets really like 1.5 episodes. His stand power is essentially he's able to turn the iron in people's blood into metal objects. So for instance, like Nikita, he can just turn the iron in your blood into like razor blades, for example. And that's really bad for you, obviously.
Yeah.
Super cool character, badass. He shows up for one fight, gets fucking wrecked, and that's it. That's all you see of him. And I'm like, dude, we had so much other stuff happening in this part that you couldn't have like made him a main character, like involved him in other ways, and like it was really frustrating. And then that happens a couple of times in JoJo's. So in terms of plot, I think he's got some interesting stuff going for him. In terms of themes, I'd have to look into it a little bit more, like a rewatching. But his pacing in his plot is so bad. Part 3 is so bad for that.
That's unfortunate.
Oh yeah. Part 3 is essentially like just a long fetch quest that when you finally get to the fetching at the end, the final fight of like Jotaro versus Dio is fucking excellent, but everything before that just gave me a headache. That's my take.
Wow, well there we go, folks. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I like part 1 and 2. I'll have to like watch in depth part 3 and 4 and 5 just to get ready for part 6, but I like the show. I definitely think check it out. I would say it's very specific. Like you have to be a specific person to enjoy it, I feel like.
Can I give a recommendation for if people are going to watch it?
Really quick, yes.
I know. Can. First of all, look on Crunchyroll, look on Netflix. That's where you can find it. Second of all, if you have any friends who have seen it before, try to find like the least obnoxious one out of those friends and have them like guide you through the show. That is what I had through my viewing, and it was extremely helpful to have someone there with you who's like kind of leading you along and like saying like, okay, I'm going to warn you about this episode upcoming, not the best in the world. I'm going to skip this one because it's really bad and weird. It's good to have friends like that for this type of anime. I think I do it with Naruto when I'm showing like Naruto for people. Like it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
If you have that in your life, please like seek that person out.
And if you not, don't, reach out to us.
Good luck.
Reach out to us.
We'll help it out. But if you don't reach out to us, good luck. You should. All right, I will help you out. I will get a guide for you.
He really will. He literally will.
But that's the best I can offer. If you don't listen to me and you try to go through it on your own, okay, man. Good luck. I don't know. You're gonna have a different experience. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh lordy. Yeah, that's JoJo for you. Is it the worst? Is it the best?
I'd say it's mid. I'd say it's mid. It depends on who you are. If you really enjoy it, you really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I know you can say that about a lot of things, but it's got a pretty hardcore fan base for a reason.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That's what I've got.
Well, guys, thank you for tuning into this episode of Your Resident Nerd. We appreciate it. We hope this helped you in finding out whether you think you should jump into JoJo or not. You definitely should at least give it a watch, give it a try, as you should with all things. But I believe that's it. Again, follow us on our Instagram and TikTok for @YourResidentNerds just for updated info. Keep watching the streams if you guys want to watch and get live updates and reactions to what we think about all the biggest comic book and anime things going on at the moment. And that'll be at just Nikita Lisko. So check out both things. Follow our social media and reach out to us if you ever have any questions, whether it be needing a guide or anything like that. We always got you guys. That's why we're here, is to be your resident nerd so we can help you get into the nerd world. But I think that's it. Gino, is that it?
I believe so. I think that's all there is to say. Who are you?
My name is Nikita Liskowski, your friendly comic book nerd.
And I am Gino, your weeb authority.
Your weeb authority. And we're your resident nerds. I'll be for the YouTube outro. No, hey.